Hey, yo, welcome back to the Chalk Sports Podcast. It's part 2 time, baby. If you haven't seen part 1, it's on the channel. But it's time to talk about part 2. And I know that's such a weird way to just smooth on in there. But it's round 2. So round 1, you can watch the video. Just watch the video. I'd recommend it. We ended up talking about all of these prospects and why the teams are drafting them. This is my first official mock draft entirely. But it's time for Jets to come up on the clock. And so for the Jets, we've had them draft David Bailey and Dylan Thyman. And I think those two are good additions. But right now, Colton Hood is still sitting there available. And I know there's options at tackle. There's option at defensive interior. I'm tempted to say Lee Hunt. Actually, no. That's what I'm going to say. Lee Hunter is my pick. I changed my mind instantly. Because when you think about it, so the Jets got T-Pain in Trevonde Sweat. He's an amazing interior defensive lineman. Harrison Phillips is also pretty good, but he's getting a little old. If you add Lee Hunter, who I am super high on now. Actually, I was a little low on him. I gave him a little hate today, but not like hate as in, oh, this guy sucks. His pass rush is all right, but his run and his athleticism score didn't come out great. But his run defense is so good, it makes it worth it. Along with the teammate combination of adding a Texas Tech guy to a Texas Tech guy and David Bailey, Lee Hunter's the best option, and it just makes sense for them. So I have the Jets drafting Lee Hunter. Moving on to pick number 34, and there's, for some reason, PFF says that the Cardinals only need 4 positions, but they need a lot of help. And the running back position is probably not the one I want to touch. I want to hit on the safety because Budda Baker has a good pass rush, but that's about all he can do. I want to move him down to linebacker, anything, because you're getting a guy who's small, very undersized for a linebacker, yes, but I feel like he would fill that position more, and I want to move Emmanuel and McNeil Warren up, but that's not going to happen. Let's be real. I want it. I think it makes sense, but the Cardinals are releasing Kyler Murray, and it only makes sense. Ty Simpson is where he's going to go. I can't, in good faith, say, oh yeah, you'll move down and do this and that. No, they're gonna go Ty Simpson, and I think it makes more sense in logic, in the on paper part aspect of, hey, you pick up a quarterback who can get traded by Brissett for a little bit. You can end up tailing well with Harrison and McBride. I think there's a lot of potential there, but in my soul, I want to say Emmanuel, but it makes sense to go Ty. And for the Titans, I think that's where it's also tricky. It gets tricky in the second round because you also have to factor in what the picks you already made. But Amani Hooker did not have a good season. At the same time, Kevin Winslow's getting young. He's young. His pass rush grade is extremely high. Holy crap. So there's some options. You could go a linebacker. You already have an edge. You already got Ruben Bain. I don't think you need to double sack edges considering there's no teammate comparison. There's no addition. That made sense. You could go wide receiver, but I think wide receivers are so young that I just want to give him some time to develop. Same thing with running back, where Tajay Spears is not a bad option. Tajay Spears is only 24. He's got a lot of time left. I think, though, the one that makes the most sense to me is going to Emmanuel. You're already fine on the line. Linebacking's a little weak, but I feel like Emmanuel McNeil Warren is one of my favorite guys in this draft because he showed potential against Kentucky and Western Kentucky, 2 teams that he should have struggled against because he's out of his position. He's out of those easier teams, but he actually dominated better in a higher level. I think that is something that is so noteworthy and worth factoring in, especially considering he had one of the better combines, being graded the second highest behind Caleb Downs, which is super tough to do. And the only reason I have one man above him is because Dylan Thyman also played really good in this combine, and he has more experience at a high level, and his athleticism score was number 1. Well, Emmanuel is actually no joke. He's no joke. He's also very tall. He's very strong. He's very powerful. But he's also very limber. And he's quick. And he can do a lot too. And that's why for the Tennessee Titans, adding a guy like that makes a lot of sense to me. Raiders, pick number 36. They already got their guy. They got Fernando Mendoza. What else do they need? Everything. But I think especially they need an edge. You're about to lose your number 1 guy in Max Crosby. I highly doubt he doesn't demand a trade. But even if he doesn't, you could argue, okay, go interior. But I think exterior matters a lot more considering they have decent guys. Jamal Adams is not getting younger. He's also not. He's getting kind of out of his prime, but there's so much work that needs to be done on that defense. Adding Zion Young is just adding a band-aid to a gun wound. But at the same time, what else do? You go Christian Miller. I don't think he adds enough compared to Zion. I think Zion's probably the right answer. For the Giants, Colton Hood is the only good option because that's where they're bleeding. That's the weakness is, hey, their cornerback's actually not the strongest. Paulson Adebo is not anything insanely special, and Float is not, again, anything insanely special. They added a wide receiver, so they don't really need to worry about Chris Bell, but Colton Hood is a pretty solid option that is kind of, if he made it that far, would actually be very shocking for the Giants because you'd imagine he goes a little earlier just because he's a corner, very valuable position. But for here, it makes total sense. Texans on the clock. It's only Christian Miller. You already got Caden Proctor. I don't even need to show you guys. It's Christian Miller. They're weak on. I'll show you guys. They're weak in that defensive interior. There's nobody really who stands out. Sheldon Rankins is good and Tim Settle's good, but I think Sheldon Rankins, 31.8. Tim Settle's 28.6. So they're not exactly young. They're getting a little older. Christian Miller is probably the answer. So we'll go there. Browns on the clock. This is where it gets tough. Okay, you draft Mekhi Lemon. You draft Monroe Feeling. Do you just go hard on the O-line? And I think that's what you do. I think there's something in my mind about getting position classes together. If it's adding quarterback, then adding a wide receiver, adding guard and tackle, lineman, there's something about stacking up to have people train together, go through the same problems and go through the same things. It's the same logic of like college where you get the people who are going in the same degree field together. Because it adds people going through the same problems, same things. Maybe people are going from the same town. That experience alone, building that relationship, adds some future to it and some chemistry that just makes sense to me. Chiefs are on the clock. Chris Bell is the only option, right? Because Rashee Rice has been in so much legal trouble. It's almost like staying just clear away from him might be the best option. I think he just got in another problem recently. Fans made. He's getting demanded to trade. He got accused of assault. He makes a troubling post. What did he do? I don't know. He made a post. Yeah. What is Donovan Kleiman saying? I ain't gonna lie, the DMs been getting on this app a while. Put you on this while. Remind people I've been locked in on this app. Oh, hello. So he is kind of also scamming while also being in trouble for assault and also driving his car kind of into another person. Not the best look for my star wide receiver. So yeah, Chris Bell is the answer in just solving that problem. Rashee Rice, hopefully he turns his life around. I'm full support of if he just turns his life around, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it because there's clearly some character issues, respectfully. Time for the Bengals. So the Bengals are in a spot where their defense was horrible. We can do this. They draft Caleb Downs. They get super lucky that he falls that far. Now you go tackle or you go guard or you go back to the defensive well. I think you go defensive well. There's so many options for your spot, considering, hey, you can go corner, you can go edge, you can go linebacker, you can go tackle or wide receiver or edge, all two edges who are equal. But I think it goes linebacker. Look at the linebacking core. It's literally the worst player, the 85th player, and the 82nd player. Those are three guys in the bottom 80s out of 88 linebackers. So adding Anthony Hill Jr., who had a solid combine, and it's actually very deep linebacking core. I'm sorry I said that it wasn't earlier in the season. In my mind, the Bengals actually stack up on just defense. In the third and fourth rounds, I probably will go defense, maybe even linebackers, just because it makes sense to stack up on positions together so these guys can learn together. I've already made that whole point. Caleb Downs learns with Anthony Hill. So move on to the Saints. Saints, who got Sony Styles in the first round, that made a lot of sense. That was an easy pick. Now it's a lot harder. And for the Saints, there's so many options. So you could go look at it and say, hey, what do we need? Well, they don't need a quarterback. They're good on quarterbacking. Wide receiver-wise, I actually believe in. I think Mason Tipton just needs a few years to develop. Give him some time. Devon Vele has had an amazing start. Chris Olave is obviously Chris Olave. He's generational. Kool-Aid McKinstry had a good start. There's some good stuff in that cornerbacking core, wide receiver core, linebacking core. You added a safety already, or you added a linebacker already. I think you go tackle. Because you could say that's probably the weakest. That's probably the weak link. Actually, never mind. I changed my mind. You don't go tackle. You go. I don't know where you go. This team's actually very complete. I think you just go edge because I think at this point in the season, Chase Young is very bipolar in how good he plays. I think he is still very talented. He's a second overall pick for a reason. Granderson is getting old. I think that's probably the spot you go. You fill it with R. Mason Thomas, who's got a lot of talent. He had a good combine. You see that 97.4. That's crazy high. It's not going to be something that I factor into. But I like R. Mason Thompson, and I think he's probably the best answer for the Saints. Dolphins is a little more of an interesting case. So this team is just such a weird team. It's such a hard team to build on. When Tua is probably out, your guard core is weak, but every guard core is weak, and there's no guards that are really worth reaching on in this position. I don't think Chase is worth it. You can't go wide receiver because Waddle. I believe in not Cedric Wilson. Who was it? Malik Washington. I believe in. I think he can develop better. But Gabe Jacobs is right there. And Chop Robinson had a bad season. Did Bradley Chubb get released? I thought Bradley Chubb got released. I think that's the one. Panthers inside slams, breaks and splash. Oh. Yeah. It's Bradley Chubb got released. Yeah. So, yeah. Bradley Chubb's a Panther. So, Gabe Jacobs makes sense. They already have Mansour Lane. You got another defensive guy together. You could say Kenneth Albee and just double stack corners, which would be actually really electric, and I'd be so down for that. But I think Jack Jones deserves the sunlight. Rasul Douglas deserves sunlight. Go. Gabe, it's the only option. Jets, again. It's always the Jets. It always gets back to the Jets, and then it's like, okay, well, I don't know where to go. They have a lot of picks. They've already gone defensive line. They've added so much to that defense. But I think you add more. Because at this point, their defense cannot get worse. It's hit rock bottom. Because the Bengals are the only team who is arguably a better defense, and that's not giving them much credit. I kind of want to go wide receiver, but at the same time, I can't. I can't in good conscience go wide receiver. You could argue tight end. You could say Eli Stowers. Eli Stowers is amazing. I love Eli Stowers. But at the end of the day, how much defense is going to be enough? The answer is never. There's never going to be enough defense when your team didn't even force a single interception all season. Give me Kenneth Albany. A guy who's got a lot of potential. He's shown a lot of bright spots. I believe in him. Go. Done. Easy. This team's hard. The Ravens... The PFF says they need a wide receiver, and I am inclined to agree with them. But I still think I believe in Rashad Bateman, and I believe in Zay Flowers and DeAndre Hopkins. I know DeAndre Hopkins is getting older. You know what they do need? Somebody to help. Ronnie Staley is no young man. I love Ronnie Staley. He's old. He's 31.9. You could also go you could go back to the defensive line. You'd have to reach pretty far, and I don't think it's worth it at that point. Blake Miller's staring you right in the face. Oh, man, they say Emmanuel Pratt. Like, he makes it that far. That's kind of crazy. Akeem? Yeah, all these guys are, like, way earlier in my drafts. Blake Miller's the answer. It's just that simple. Because Rose Garden's good, and I think he stays. Ronnie Staley's getting old. Okay, well, you figure it out. Whether it's maybe moving somebody in, or it's just, okay, you got to sit on the bench for a year. Like, and then you come in next year and replace Ronnie Staley. It makes sense to me. Moving on to the Buccaneers, and this one's easy. I'm not even going to look. It's Eli Stowers. Eli Stowers is the answer to any team's problems. He's the perfect guy. He's the perfect draft guy. We're talking about a guy who literally broke NFL records in jumping, and he had a lot of talent. Why is his grade so low? That's kind of just disrespectful. All time, he had one of the best combines, if not the best combine. His jump is literally record breaking. So is his broad jump. His 40 time is a 4.51, which is faster than some of the safeties. It's Eli Stowers. Easy. Colts, easy again. Amari Cooper. I talked about it with, I'm blanking on his name now. Casey a while ago, actually. We talked about it after one of the podcasts, what the Colts are doing for the future. What's the future hold? And he said, you got to pay Pierce. You might have to move Pittman. And I love Michael Pittman, but it makes sense. He needs to get out. I feel like he needs to get out. They need to pay Pierce, so losing that money is nice. Amari Cooper is the answer just because he's from Indiana. It's going back to Indiana. Well, I guess you could say linebacker and go Jake Golday, but I feel like this is the perfect answer for not all their problems, but definitely a problem. So I have that. Falcons on the clock. Their first draft pick. So brutal for the Falcons. They're set back so far because of this. The whole problem with what's his name? James Pierce Jr. There's a lot of problems going on in that franchise, and they just need a win. And I think they go with probably the safer option and just go Max. I love Max. His combine was good. And in general, he's just had such a solid career. Nothing like insanely special. He didn't allow a sack last year, and that's something worth crediting. He's consistent. He's reliable. They need a win. They need a win bad. And adding him it helps. Okay, let's say Caleb McGarry has a problem again. He was injured all season. Jake Matthews is 34. There's so much that does just to have an easy win. A tackle's an easy win. You're getting a position of need for every single team in the NFL. It's easy. It's free. It's simple. Don't overthink it, Falcons. Please don't overthink it. Vikings on the clock. This is an interesting spot for the Vikings. Harrison Smith, I'm pretty sure is retiring. He's 37. If he holds on for another year, I would be genuinely stunned. Josh Manutes might not be the full-time answer. AJ Halsey is a good, talented safety who played in the SEC, so he had hard challenges and played pretty well. His tackle rate was a little low. His tackle rate was a little low. He had some hard times, but I believe in him. I think that's probably the answer. Lions on the clock. Is it just this easy to just go chase? I know it's a little bit of a reach. Guards are hard to come by. Another position that's starting to become so hard to find. Because if you're a good enough offensive lineman, you'll play your size, your tallest probably, but you're also going to be good enough to move to tackle, which makes more money. Chase Bisk is probably the answer. It's close, though. You could argue a few guys in there. I think it's only Chase. And I already had them go Kendrick Folk. Adding somebody to the other side, you could say, okay, they need a corner, so let's go Kenyon Scott. I don't believe in it fully, though. I don't think that he's probably the right answer. It's Chase. And I'm going to stop overthinking it. Panthers on the clock. What did I have him draft first? I think I had him go edge. So there's a few options for me in my mind. One, you go Scott. You go, okay, stack up on Miami players. You already got Akeem. You could pick up a Miami player, but I think the only advantage would be replacing Smith Wade. But I think it's way too early to be out on him. He's solid. He's shown some promise, and he's very young. J.C. Horn, same situation. He's shown a lot of promise. Had the bad season this year. Not worth bailing on quickly. I think you go safety. I thought there was safety. Never mind. I think you go linebacker and Jack Galladay. Because you have Rosebloom, you have Wallace, both of them, not the best seasons. And you're adding a guy who shown a good promise all seasons. His interior defense is good. His run defense is good, which is something you kind of need because your run defense is weak. Just straight up, both defensive linemen are not the best at it. Derek Brown is way better, but it's still something that needs help. And Jack Galladay adds that. Adding Jack Galladay makes sense. Linebacking core is strong. Packers. First pick on the draft, I think. Or am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. The Packers, first pick of the draft, there's some clear weakness to this team. And interior lineman, you could go back there, but I think, again, it's so hard to go back to interior lineman just because they're so much weaker than the tackle position. but it's hard to get a tackle out there. I think you go interior line. I think you go Dante Conalo because he had good run defense. You already have Micah Parsons. You don't need help on the edges. Wyatt was really weak in the run defense. His pass rush was good. The only thing that held him above was his pass rush. His run defense was one of the worst in the league. Woolen had neither of those. Adding a guy like Dante improves that fully, and I think that's right guy to go with. Steelers, first pick, too? No, they had Jordan Tyson, that's right. It's a tough one. You could argue, hey, you go for the Hail Mary. You go quarterback. I don't think you do that. Because, okay, you have it. Actually, no, I think you do. Because it's so hard. It's so hard to determine. Because will Garrett Nussmeier be there at pick number 76? Because I think he gets picked by the Dolphins. They say Ty Simpson, but Ty Simpson got picked so long ago. So, okay. I don't think you play ball. Because it's very tempting. Yes, okay. Whatever, we'll go with Keon Scott. And you had Keon Scott and you say, hey, that's a job well done. Keon Scott's the answer. And we'll hope that he falls that far. But is the level of drop worth it to go to Garrett Nussmeier? From Garrett Nussmeier to Carson Beck? And for me, it's not. I do think Carson Beck is a solid option, but I think, your defense is strong enough to hold its own without adding a corner or DB. And I think it's just worth it to go with the guy. Going Garrett Nussmeier. Now, if there were trades, this would not make as much sense. Because I feel like they could trade into like one of these little slots on 65 to 70. Slot in, pick him, be happy. Eagles would be trading out of these positions because they actually have a lot of draft picks and not a lot of need for help. It feels like you almost prepare for future reference because honestly, what does this team need? I think it's wide receivers, but it's something that I'm not proud of to say because it's like, okay, you trade AJ Brown probably. At the end of the day, I think AJ Brown's going to end up being gone just because he's been such a problem lately and he's caused a lot of problems. Adoree Jackson is also a weak point, so I think they probably factor in both. Okay, hey, what's cornerbacks look like after Keon Scott? Okay, it's Chris Johnson, it's DeAndre Pond, and Keon Scott is the best option. Well, there's not really a lot of guys who are dying to get corners, so you look at the other side. Okay, what's wide receiver looks like? Elijah Sarrett, Jermaine Bernard, Malachi Fields, all guys who. Malachi Fields took such a shot, too, for me, by the way. But there's wide receivers are going to get picked. Let's be real for a second. The Bills need a wide receiver. I think we already had a draft wide receiver. But the 49ers still need a wide... Never mind, they have Casey. So, both slots will fall. I think wide receivers are a little more valuable at times than corners, especially considering I think this cornerbacking class is stacked. To Chris Johnson, to even if you go down to Malik Muhammad... I think those guys are super good, and that's something that needs to be factored in. I'm going Jermaine Bernard. Chargers on the clock. And it's center time, I think. You already added Vega. They need a center. They need a center bad. And Sam Hecht had an amazing combine. It's instant. He ran the fastest 40 time. And 40 times actually translate really well for centers and positions like guards. Give me Sam Hecht. Jaguars. Is it just as easy as going Derek Moore? In my mind, I think it is just because the Jaguars are in a position of need in the defensive line position in my mind. Because, okay, Armstead had an alright season. Trayvon Walker, you don't give up on because he was your number one pick. Forgotten, by the way. A lot of people forget that, and I do personally too. Devon Hamlin is also alright. He doesn't hold too well, but he's definitely not bad. I think Trayvon Walker's big enough to where adding somebody like Derek Moore makes sense because you can look and say, hey, he's 6'3", 260 pounds. He's 23, which is not preferred, but also preferred in the Jaguars spot considering they're kind of in win now mode. So give me Derek Moore and move on to the Bears. The Bears. For the Bears, it's just kind of a position of, okay, you already got Caden McDonald. You drafted Caden McDonald in your first round. So what do you go here? You go in defensive line. You go Malachi Lawrence. He had one of the better combines in my mind. He played so well in that combine. His drills were good. His 40 time was good. He played good. It only makes sense to go into that defensive line. 49ers. So you get KC conception, right? You look at it and say, okay, there are corners here sitting, waiting for us. Like, oh, they're waiting to get drafted. But I have a hard time saying you don't attack one of your weaknesses in defensive line. But at the same time, do you really want to reach? So that puts me as a decision maker in a comfortable spot. I would go Keontae Scott. I think you had another corner, which is just desperately needed because you're the 49ers. You're injured constantly. You're constantly in need of somebody to step up. And I think Keon Scott is that advantage, that person who can do that. Texans, on the clock. Who did I go with last time? I went with Christian Miller and Caden Proctor. So what do they need? Because now, it starts to become a game of, future. I don't know what they need desperately. I would argue linebacker, but there's not really a linebacker worth picking, if that makes sense. I mean, Josh Trotter is not terrible. I actually like Jacob Rodriguez, but you could go later and get him. I think you probably go with Derek Singletary is young. There's young defense. Do they have Peach? Oh, they have all good position there. See, I have a hard time here because I don't know really. I guess you go Caleb Tinerman because Irsay's good. Ante Irsay is all right. He's young, and Trent Brown's getting older. You could say, hey, they fit. Caleb Tillman it might just be a battle for who gets that left tackle spot, and then as time goes on, when Trent Brown retires, then you could fill in. Bills. So this one's a little tougher considering they already got their wide receiver. They're chilling on the wide receiver position. You don't need a running back. You can't get a lineman because it just doesn't make sense at this point. Right now, at least, it doesn't make sense in my mind. There's not really a linebacker. Actually, there is a linebacker. It's Joshua Trotter, and I think that's where you go. Never mind, I lied. Trotter, probably Josiah. It's probably a good answer. His coverage is a little weak, which is not what you want, but I believe in the outside positions to cover up that weakness. And for his pass rush grade and his run defense grade, it makes sense. You can fill him at edge if you need. You can fill him at linebacker if you need. He can play multiple positions. That's such a good addition. Always going to be a good addition. Rams, they got 2 tackles. They already stacked up that offensive line. They will not go a single back. They won't go back to that spot for a while. D'Angelo Pons is right there. It's sitting right in front of their face. It only makes sense. Pons. For the Broncos, Max Clare is also sitting right there, right in front of them. It makes sense. Max Clare, easy. Same thing here. Patriots need something else on the edge position, on the defensive line. They already had a really good defensive line. Add another guy to rotate in because you need rotation. And I think that's kind of what's reflected in Christian Ballmore and Kavlon Chesson. I think you go with Josiah Josephs, who had a great collegiate career on PFF with his grades all being upper echelon. Adding him makes sense. And for the last pick, can it be so simple? You look, they didn't bring Kenneth Walker back. And I think there's a reason behind that. The Seattle Seahawks are in an ugly position where you had to pay Kenneth Walker. But you choose not to. You keep Zach Charbonnet, who had a good season. I won't lie. Zach Charbonnet works. But adding Jadarian Price when he's right there in front of you, it only makes sense. Congrats to making it through the second round of the NFL draft. Make sure to tune into round 1 if you haven't seen it already. I'll see y'all at round 3. Posted tomorrow. So, see you then at noon. All right. I'll see y'all. Peace.